So welcome to Legal Studies, Law 100, Para 100. We're in our Module 1, talking really about the legal profession itself and what it means to work in the profession, what are the opportunities. So kind of some introductory material as we jump in. A little bit about me, right? So my experience is large corporate civil litigation. I may have already said this before, but downtown DC, downtown Los Angeles. I need to update these slides because I don't even work part-time anymore as a research attorney. I don't have time. So teaching is my full-time job. I am a member of the state bar, so I am still an attorney, but I don't even have time to do the research work I used to do. So anyway, but so my background is very large, kind of downtown law. And what's nice is in our program, we have people from all different areas. We have a super senior paralegal, Kai Williamson, Kim Smith, an attorney who's done education law and worked with legal aid, Rick Manzano, another attorney who's had his own practice and done kind of all the different things that come in with just having your own practice. We've got one of our adjuncts specializes in state bar defense and ethics defense. Another one of our adjuncts works for Orange County, County Counsel's office. So we have all different experience that we bring to you into our program to really help you. We have our interpreting professor is an interpreter and for the courts and teaches with us and USC. So just got a lot of different people for you to pull from ideas and mentors. One of the first things that I think is helpful to think about is, you're starting at point A, but like, what does the end result look like? What are the options, and there could be even more options than you can imagine. But I like to kind of throw out some basics that you guys might already be familiar with. Obviously lawyer, obviously paralegal, interpreter could be one as well. Some things you may not have heard of before, corporate compliance officer. So kind of a hybrid position. You may not necessarily have to be a lawyer. A paralegal background might be really great for this. This is someone that helps the corporation turn in all the documents that they have to turn into federal, state, local government to show that they are, complying or following all the various regulations out there. And it's a really big job. If you're a financial services company, if you're traded on the stock market, SEC filings are huge and have legal consequences. And so often that'll be prepared, with the legal team or with an eye towards legal information. Mediator is one that comes up a lot, someone who wants to help people solve their disputes, mediate their disputes so they don't have to necessarily go to court. And then I've put judge up here. I always like to point this out because to be a judge, for California at least, you have to be a lawyer for 10 years. And once you've been a lawyer for 10 years, then you're eligible to become a judge. So if any of you have judge in your sights, just know you need to start at some point with being an attorney. Are there any other careers you guys can think of, or, could be a business manager, you could be Kanye's business manager. Anything you guys want to put up here? You can chat in. A lot of sports managers who follow soccer. Is Messi leaving Barcelona? Anyone? So a lot of agents and lawyers for sports, actors, all those kinds of people will have legal backgrounds. What was that one? Okay, yeah, so maybe you want to be, I'm thinking maybe you mean like a medical malpractice attorney, or even, oh, that's fine. I know the audio feeds are all weird. So if you're thinking medical malpractice, that could be one. Family lawyer, family attorney, family paralegal, definitely coming up. And even we've had in the past members of our advisory board who actually worked at the general counsel's office for CHOC, for Children's Hospital Orange County. So even these organizations that you might not think of as legal, oh, it's the hospital, but the hospital has an internal attorney's office. And then they have paralegals and lawyers and, managing their contracts, managing, making sure they're complying with labor laws, all those things. And then other matters, they'll hire an outside law firm, but they have their own general counsel. So even, Apple, IBM, Disney, all those companies will have lawyers as well that work for them. And they're called in-house and lawyers, paralegals. So that can be great. Anything else you guys want to put up there? Are you feeling good? It's just kind of, you know, putting some ideas out there. So obviously the two kind of most basic options and maybe biggest options are paralegal, lawyer, and then interpreting, some things like that. But what's really cool is they come in, as we've already mentioned, like a ton of different settings. So you could be at a traditional law firm, you know, like the TV shows you watch, Suits, or, you know, whatever the new TV show will be. You could also be a paralegal lawyer at a criminal, you know, either defense firm or the public defender's office or the district attorney's office, right? They have paralegals, lawyers there. You could be at any sort of company. As we mentioned, you could be at Apple, you could be at Facebook, at Tesla, at Samsung. I don't know, what are the big companies? You could be at Vaughn's, you know, you could be at the Vaughn's corporate center and be working for their situation. You could have your own practice. You could be in fashion, you could be in music and entertainment, in sports. It's like, so it's endless, really. You could be in space, right? You know, sometimes people laugh, but there absolutely is, or are people who are lawyers and paralegals that work not necessarily in space, but they work in the law surrounding everything to do with the space aeronautics industry, government regulation, you know, all of that. So super fascinating. So there's really anything you can connect it to. You could be an intellectual property lawyer or paralegal and focus on biotech and, you know, all these new discoveries. You could be in pharmaceuticals. It's just endless. So I want you, if there's anything you're interested in that you weren't sure if it can connect to the law, I would tell you that there is, we can connect it to the law. So is there anything you guys, you know, if you want to throw up a question or a chat, if you think you can stump me, I don't know, maybe you can. Does anyone think they have something that like doesn't relate to the law? That you think there's like no lawyers involved there? My light a little weird. It's really my glasses. Okay, let's see here. Oh, sweet. Oh my gosh, Leo, I love it. So the NSA and CIA are hiring paralegals right now. Yes, right? So all of those government agencies, perfect, will have lawyers and paralegals working for them. So super cool. I feel like that could also be like a new TV show on USA. You know, I'm a paralegal for the CIA. But that's awesome. Yeah, so government agencies, courts, everything. Anyone else have one that you want to throw out there, or maybe an industry that you're interested in that you aren't sure if it connects to the law? You're like, I don't know, I don't see the legal experience. That's so cool. So yeah, and a lot of those, especially when you're talking a nationwide job, they're really going to focus on the American Bar Association approved program. Like, did you complete one of these approved programs, is usually the most important thing. Psychology, yeah, so psychology, absolutely. There will be lawyers and paralegals that their whole practice area is defending psychologists who maybe are in trouble in different reasons, and people who their whole practice area is suing psychologists for all kinds of different things, right? So, and then also a lot of people who are interested in psychology tend to and sometimes love the law because they get to talk with clients and help them and really kind of get involved in their life situations and their stories. So that's kind of just like maybe broader way they cross over. And then let's see here. Yeah, so Morgan asked, are there other guidelines if you want to be a paralegal in another state? The most important thing would be for you to complete an American Bar Association approved paralegal program, which Santa Ana College is. Not all programs are approved by the ABA. The ABA is a nationwide standard, and we have had students who go work in other states and who even come to us from other states. So that is really important that you can go anywhere. There's no specific regulations outside of that you would have to do, but the most important thing would be to do an ABA program. If you didn't have an ABA approved program, and this is what's happened when students have come to California or people have moved here, sometimes they find out that the job market really demands that ABA standard, and then they end up coming to us. They're like, I've been a paralegal for 25 years. I can get a job, but I can't get the higher pay job that I want in Orange County or in California without ABA approval. So they come to us to get that. I know it's To be American Bar Association approved is both an exercise. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of energy. The school has to put some resources, like financial resources behind it to be able to get everything done. You turn in, I mean, if it was in paper, it'd probably be like about this thick, a filing every 4 years to the American Bar Association, reviewing every single thing about your program, alumni, current students, everything about your school, textbooks, I mean, literally everything. So that's every 4 years. And then every 7 years, the American Bar Association sends representatives to come to the campus and conduct 2 days of meetings and observations to make sure that you are a quality program and that you are worthy of that approval. So I think we're the longest approved program in Orange County. We've been approved since like the 70s or something, but it's very, they'll send you comments like, oh, work on this or do that. I mean, it's very intensive. So we're one of the few programs that, because of the ABA, we have to track you guys when you graduate for 4 years after you graduate our program. We have to, stay in contact with you and kind of find out what you're doing. And you'll see that we've embedded a lot of surveys throughout the program and various stages of the courses. And again, that's because the Bar Association really wants to see that we're getting feedback. We meet with advisory committees, we go to trainings. It's a lot, but it's to ensure quality. So yeah, and so some schools just don't want to put the time and investment into it. And it is a little bit, I mean, everyone's different, but we think it's really important to the labor market here and to the job market. So even though it's a bear to complete, but yeah. Let's see here. Okay, so I think we're on to the next one. So the requirements to be a paralegal are codified in what's known, and we'll pull the code up in a little bit, Business and Professions, or B&P, our California State Code, Business and Professions Code 6450. And we will actually look at that in a second. And then basically the code of California sets out who can call themselves a paralegal. What are the requirements? The first requirement, the first way that you can call yourself a paralegal is to complete a program approved by the ABA. And obviously Santa Ana College meets this requirement. And the next thing I want you to understand, so this is a little bit where in orientation we talked about how in the intro class you'd get some information about the programs, and that's what we're doing. So in order for you to complete a program approved by the American Bar Association, Santa Ana College is offering you 2 ways for you to complete. You have 2 choices, kind of like this way or that way. One choice is an associate degree. The other choice is the certificate. Both choices will show that you have completed a program of study, right? You've completed a program that is American Bar Association approved. We always get questions, what's the difference? Should I do associates? Should I do certificate? This, that. When you get to the end class, 297, we'll kind of tell you if, do both. If you qualify for the associate's degree, you will automatically also qualify for a certificate, but you still have to fill in the paperwork. And unlike other certificates, it's not like a 4-unit certificate. Our associate degree and our certificate are both 60 some odd units. The paralegal classes are identical for both associate and certificate. There is no difference. The only difference is in the general education pattern. So when you meet with a counselor, they're going to give you all these different options of plan A, B, C. Do you want to transfer? Do whatever. And you'll get slightly different choices there. So, and you have to, whatever your path is for the associate degree, and it will include some sort of math. We have found that for the certificate, the American Bar Association just says you have to have 18 general ed units across 3 substantive areas. So you could choose English, history, and science, or English, history, and math. But the thing is, you could develop your plan without a math course, or without a certain level math course that you would have to take for the associates. So this is a little bit in the weeds that you'll talk with your counselor about. We do still encourage you to get an associate's degree. A lot of times your jobs won't give you that promotion bump, right? They want to see that degree. This field is very education dependent. And so that's something that will really speak to your workplace. And we would love for you to, if it's in your path, get a bachelor's one day, really continue that education, and the associates will help you do that. But what we also noticed in doing research and feedback for all of our kind of feedback that we do, that we would have students that had finished everything and were waiting for that pay bump at work, but they got stuck in what we called the math loop. They couldn't get to the right math class to get their associates because it was like they couldn't get the right grade to get from the one math class to the other math class, and it was just a hot mess. And here they're, ready to be promoted, ready to complete. And so that was when we really looked at changing the certificate requirements so that it would kind of give people a chance to get that certificate, get that completion, call themselves a paralegal, and then they could maybe continue working on that math class. So a lot of students who get our certificate, maybe a semester or two later, also get the associate. And then I know that's a lot. And then the other key difference, which we'll hope, fingers crossed, we'll have graduation this spring, is that certificates, there is no ceremony. You will get the nice kind of frameable that looks, just like the diploma that you can put in your office or put at your home, and that's wonderful. But there isn't a ceremony, a cap and gown ceremony for certificates. So if you want the cap and gown experience, and it is a great experience, and that's one of our favorite events of the whole year, is being there to see all of you eventually graduate, then you would want to do the associate degree. Some of you already have associates, already have bachelors. You might have classes you took in another college or another community college or AP credits or any of that. Make sure that you have that transferred to Santa Ana College. And I'll see if we can have our counselor come in one of these days onto the Zoom, but make sure you bring that over, because you can get credit and then you don't have to like take English again or take history again. So that's definitely something you want to work on. And I've just been going and going. Any questions so far? Or too many questions?
Yonel Morales Nunez.
Yeah, so you should absolutely be able to achieve it in 2 years. So it kind of depends. I like Oscar's like, nope, or no, maybe he means no questions. So Celeste, you'd want to get with a really good counselor, and let me put up one email right now. And to make a really solid ed plan, you'd probably have to go at least either intersession or summer, pick up a class or two. It is possible to do it. It's difficult because I think the official associate degree is like 63 or 64 units. It's a range because it kind of depends on like what gen ed classes you pick, because some are 3, some are 4, blah, blah, blah. But depending, but you need to be hitting that 15 units, right, every semester, and then a little bit extra. So if you went summer, if you do pick up intersession class, so yes, it is possible. So yeah, it's just, you need to, really focused, but it is possible. Part of it is because data shows us, now I'm getting all like wonky, but data shows us that for whatever reason, students at the community college are not getting the message that like the rest of the world considers 15 units to be full-time. Because if you think of a 60-unit degree, that's 15 times 4, right, every semester. And I think it's because we're working and a lot of us are part-time students. But for some reason, people only register for 12 units. They do the bare minimum for like financial aid, instead of realizing that they need to be hitting like 15-ish. So I don't know. And I think when, so that's assuming you're full-time. If you're part-time, then you're just going to pick up classes as you can. But I just I chatted out Maria Tran's email. So she is one of our great, awesome Morgans. So Morgan's in 15. Yeah, and the reason why 15 is good is because then if you do have to drop a class, you'll still be full-time for all the financial aid. It's kind of dangerous if you're trying to qualify for different aid programs and you have to stay full-time. If you drop below like 12, I think it can jeopardize that. Yeah, so great. So pick up some things, during summer and intersession. And it might not even be a paralegal or a law class. Like maybe you're going to pick up a gen ed class during summer or intersession, or maybe you're going to pick up a skill, like take that Adobe class, take one of those office skill classes so that you can totally, kill it when you get to work. Yes. And so for paralegal, there's not a specific math requirement for Pathway to Law School. The statistics class, Math 219, is required. And I think is it Psych 210? I don't have the number in front of me, but there is a equivalent psychology or social science class, kind of like statistics for liberal arts or something, and that will count. That is in the catalog. So yeah, So that should work. Any rate, okay. Oh, good. And Celeste, yeah, or in Math 219, perfect. So, awesome. And that's one of the new things. They're really encouraging people to jump right into that math class first. You know, don't wait. Don't let the math grow old in your brain. Take it as soon as you can. Any other questions? You guys are chatting in a bunch. Great. Great. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so to be a lawyer, right? Basic requirements, bachelor's degree, then you go to law school, Juris Doctorate degree, then you'd have to pass a state bar exam, also pass an ethics evaluation, whatever, and then be admitted to practice law in that specific state. There are, just like paralegal, there are some kind of alternate paths, but this is the main, like 95% of the time, this is the path. So there you go. So then what's happening kind of with your law journey here at Santa Ana College? So because you have to get a bachelor's degree, it's really smart to, you know, get that associate's first and then transfer, right? You're going to save money. I mean, there's some evidence, and I mean, I certainly believe it, that you might even have better classes for those first 2 years at a community college than you would at a 4-year. You never know. But I'll say I believe it. But certainly you're going to save money. And law school is very expensive. Woo! So as many classes as you can take at this level to really see if that fits your path, if it fits your journey, would be very smart. I personally know some people who went to 1 year of law school and then, you know, dropped out, withdrew, never came back, and they had loans, right? They, you know, it was a lot of time and money for that year for it not to work out. So if you can take classes here, have an internship here, get some experience here, while you figure out if that's your path, if that's what you're interested in, it'll be a much better thing. And I know this says here that law school is about $150,000. You know, if you're bored, go Google. I mean, I guess we could do it here. Maybe we'll do it for fun. Let me stop the share. We'll do it. So, let me write. But the profession is really amazing. Whether you're lawyer, paralegal, interpreter, so incredible. Everyone in our program, we're really passionate about it. And, you know, we meet with the industry. There are still jobs out there. And we'll have a chance to even look at our own labor market data. And then this note, I don't know, you know, when you start talking about like what people make, I sort of think it goes both ways. Sometimes you think people make a lot more than they make, and sometimes people make more than you think they make. You know, a paralegal might make more money than you realize. An attorney might not make as much money as you think, right? Or they might make more money, but they have a huge student loan payment, whereas the paralegal doesn't have that much. So I just think, you know, there are absolutely paralegals when you get senior who are making 6 figures, right? Who are making $100,000 plus, right? And it's a great entry, you know, and you can, even the entry level amounts are great, you know. So I think, but it's just have that in your head. Like it's sort of like the idea, if the only reason you're going into a profession is for a dollar figure, you could probably do anything and make that same money. You know, you should be going into it because it's interesting to you, because, you know, it's intriguing, because you think you can make a career of it, because you can probably make money doing anything, right? Well, get me started, right? I mean, holy schmoly. I have to stop for a second. Oh my goodness. Do not start an account, Hector. I'm dying. Okay. Dying. Okay. So kind of like the parting advice is like, what next, right? Whether you're paralegal, and certainly if you're pathway to law school, every grade and every class will matter for law school, especially. So whether it's, you know, don't think of like, oh, that throwaway Adobe class, that one unit, you know, and you get an F or a D, because who cares? Don't do that. You want to get as good a grades as you can get in every class, especially if you're applying to law school. Law school is competitive, right? And if you have to drop a class, and this goes for everybody, drop before the W deadline. You don't want that W to appear on your transcript, right? It kind of messes with things a little bit. Law schools will do something different to your transcript when you apply than regular schools. So you know how like you can, any community college, like if you took a class and you get an F and then you retake it and get an A, they replace it. So in your GPA, it looks like you only ever got the A, you know, and then you can shoot back up. Law school goes fine, but they count them all back in. So they'll count the W, the F, and the A. And so your GPA would be what, like a 2.0, you know? So things to understand if you're like, how come when I'm applying to law school, like it doesn't look like I thought, you know, that could be part of it. So the chat box is lit, you guys. I'm dying. So anywho, and then keep in mind any discipline, especially for law school. So be smart. If you've had any discipline action, even if you've had criminal law issues, it doesn't mean you can't be a lawyer. Absolutely does not mean that. But you want to be able to draw a clear line in the sand of here's kind of where I transitioned. Here's where I learned. Here's my journey. And so whether, you know, if you have like a cheating thing or you got into a fight on a campus or something crazy that happened, again, you want to have that moment because you will have to probably write a statement to explain that, you know, it's the state bar as well as the law school. So it doesn't mean that you cannot, it just means be smart, right? So that you can show that journey and that you're aware now. Because I found some years ago that students didn't even know. A lot of the counselors, right? They're not law counselors, they're general counselors. So there's some things that even they didn't know that law schools would do when you apply. So just some things to keep in mind. Okay, so let me close these. Okay, hold on, I'm just opening up. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm still dying. We're crazy. So you really did learn something new for some of you today. just in case if you didn't learn anything else. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next set of slides in the lecture notes. And these are, I think, technically called the profession update or something. Okay, are they showing, maybe drop a 2, are these slides showing on the screen? Okay, good, okay, awesome, I can never tell. So a little more about the paralegal profession, right? So what is a paralegal? They're gonna be performing tasks that could be handled by an attorney under the supervision of an attorney. Now that doesn't mean the attorney's like looking over your shoulder the whole time or judging you, but it means that, like, you know, there is an attorney there for you to be connected with. There is always somehow an attorney there to, you know, do the final check of the work because they're the ones that actually has to put their name on the document with their bar card. So they would always be there. So preparing forms and pleadings, interviewing clients. So, you know, client intake, some of you might have the opportunity to do an internship with Legal Aid and you get to do client intake, being at the self-help center, things like that. Gathering evidence, right? Talking with witnesses, tell me what happened, taking notes, you know, following up, calling this person, we want to get that, we want to get this. Doing legal research, kind of some of those traditional office things that you might imagine, you know, filing, document organization, record keeping, you know, being able to call back everything that's happened. So some of those just traditional office duties, but also happening in a law firm. So paralegal, and this is interesting, this one is transforming a little bit. So right now we see the word legal assistant. So in California, you can say paralegal or legal assistant, and you will see some places that still say that. But the American Bar Association has officially voted to remove legal assistant and just coalesce on the one term of paralegal. So we're waiting for our California code, and there's some work behind the scenes with the industry groups to change the code and have them do the same. So for now, the terms mean the same thing, but they're just trying to clarify because some people are like, is legal assistant, what's that? I've also found it can be a bit East Coast, West Coast. East Coast, when I was in DC, often they use the word legal assistant, and then West Coast and everywhere else, paralegal. So that can be, no, so there's not, you don't have to specifically take any math class, Samantha, to be a paralegal. So there's also some old jokes about people becoming lawyers because they can't do math. I don't know where these jokes come from, but that's like an old joke. That's like an old joke your grandma would tell you. But yeah, there's no specific math. If you do the certificates, if you're gonna do the associate degree, when you look inside the catalog and you go to plan A, B, C, there is a certain math class you have to take for the associate degree. But for the paralegal certificate, there is not a specific math class. And you maybe could get away with no math. So yeah, if you're doing your associates, you're gonna have to meet with the counselor and pick, again, I'm not the gen ed expert, but on that plan A, plan B, plan C, there's a certain math classes you have to pick. But for the certificate, there's not a specific math class that you even have to take. So again, we're trying to help you guys be able to get out there and get working. And so Samantha, what's the difference? So you wouldn't have to do math, oh, for the certificate. Yeah, so remember, there's really no difference. The American Bar Association simply says that you completed a program that is at an approved college. And we are giving you 2 ways to complete the program. So it's like you could order a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi. You know, you can have a soda with your meal. You can have a Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. You can choose whichever soda you want. So you can complete our program and you can choose associates or cert. Either one will allow you to get a job in California as a paralegal. You might find that maybe a specific employer is going to prefer an associate, but many do not at all. So, I mean, it's still a little biased on some levels. Like I think, the associate degree to non-legal people who don't understand might always look a little better, but it's almost no difference. And Samantha says, is one shorter? Not really. The certificate might be shorter by a unit or 2 because of the general ed classes, but they're both, I think the certificate is 60 units and then the associate degree might be 63 or 64. So really important for you to meet with your counselor to create your ed plan. So no, it's really not any shorter. And that's because of the American Bar Association. So yeah. I don't know if I mean, if you can get the associates, that probably will put you in good stead, but you don't have to, and a lot of people will get that certificate and then they can get working. And then the next semester or 2, they finish that last math class and then they get the associate degree as well. So that can happen. Yeah. Again, so what's a paralegal? They are someone who is not a lawyer, right? Who's performing certain tasks, but not licensed to practice law. And that is really important. And we will always emphasize that. And we're almost done. A paralegal is someone who works with an attorney, right? Really important, a member of the bar. And then what you get from here is just a whole bunch of listing of the different duties and different things. I'm probably going to stop here because I'm realizing we're almost out of time, but we'll be coming back to this. But let me go back to our module really quick so that you guys can see. Let me go over a couple little of the items that I've got for you in the thing. Oh yeah, and so Oscar, if I get the associates, do I get the certificate automatically? So nothing's automatic at the college. You have to put the piece of paper in. But when you apply for the associates, your counselor will literally just do the second piece of paper and you just turn them both in. So, so you only get what you apply for. And we have talked with the school about changing that, but there's deep in the weeds financial aid implications. But if you turn the piece of paper in for both associate and cert, you can do them both at the same time, if that makes sense. But yeah, nothing's automatic. And we do have people that don't know that. They think, well, if I finished all the classes, don't I just get my degree? And it's like, you have to turn the paperwork in. So when you're in the capstone class 297, one of the first assignments that Professor Manzano has the students do is turn in their graduation paperwork. So that way you get it turned in. I think you guys can see this. Let me go back to module 1 and just show you a few things, because over the weekend and getting ready for Monday, you might want to look around. So we've got the slides, and then I've put this page up called definitions, just because I think it's a little helpful. And what I have here is the definition of a paralegal and the definition of a lawyer, as well as a link that you can follow if you want to read more information from the American Bar Association. Because again, we are OER, there's no outside textbook. So I've put that in here so that you can look at that. California law. This is a link to, and hopefully this will pop up when I open it. I know we have like 1 second left. This is a link to the California law. And what's fun, and we might look at later, is you can see right here, business and professions code. So you can actually look at that and kind of go to 6450 and read about it, and that's kind of fun. The other thing you guys should be working on is your introduction discussion board, which is super easy. And this assignment, paralegal lawyer, which isn't due for like another week or so. So we'll still meet on Monday and talk more about this, but you know, what does a lawyer do? What does a paralegal do? Identify 2 things, and we'll talk more about this, and it's not due yet, that a lawyer does that a paralegal cannot do. And then how do you become a lawyer? How do you become a paralegal? So this is a little longer of assignment. It's like a review. So you're welcome to work on it. It looks like a couple people have submitted it if you wanted to resubmit, but it's not due until September 7th. So I think is that next week? It's the end of next week. So you've got a while to work on that one. So we'll meet on Monday and continue going over like all of this, the profession and what happens. So I'd say don't worry, don't freak out, because we'll keep going over everything. And yeah, and then Olga, you're in 105. What other class do you recommend? Okay, so I mean, it just depends. Like business law is a class you'll have to take at some point. It might be that things are pretty full. Ethics is a good one. You know, do you need any general ed? You know what I mean? Like, do you need English 101 or anything like that? It could be, or, you know, maybe even an interesting elective if you have like an elective that sounds kind of interesting to you. So if you're in 100, the other big one would be 105, although we offer that during summer. So sometimes that's a nice class to pick up summer. And it just depends. I feel like everything's so full right now, but yeah, I think the introduce yourself, did I say September 7th? Let me look back on that. I trust you if I said the 7th, I don't know. Yeah, it's due the 7th, but hopefully you guys will get your first posts up like in the next day or so. Oh, I have like the wrong due date. Hold on, you guys, that's crazy. It's not due June. I'm like, what does it say June? Let's see here. At any rate, so I know it says September 7th, but I'd try to get your first post up pretty soon so that way people can comment on it. Yeah. Oh, I'm just laughing at summer. I'm remembering all the crazy summer. I read some good comic books over summer. I had a good time. So tell Kim Smith I'm super nerdy. So let me stop recording.